Hello, my name is Cynthia. Thank you for clicking on my video. If you love beautiful needlework and some crafts, if you love to see examples, talk about them, and most importantly, be inspired to create your own beautiful projects, you're in the right place. Lots of beautiful projects that I wanted to share with you today. Some that I've been working on for quite a while and feel really happy to have finished. Others that are still in progress, and then a few plans. I also have a giveaway to announce at the end, the winner of my giveaway from last video, and an exciting collaboration coming up ahead, so stay tuned and I'll explain more at the end. But I wanted to start today with some previous finishes. I forgot to do that in my last video, so I actually have quite a few, or at least three. The first one is a small piece that I shared probably back in March or April. That was a heart in hand medley. These are some of them I think are out of print, but you can still find them on eBay. And I found this on a clearance rack at no, I didn't. I found it online at a store that was going out of business. I think I only paid a couple dollars for it, but it is just super cute. It's called Garden Medley. It has a bow at the top that hangs like this. And I had some brass buttons that were just like 25 cents a piece, or not buttons, they're I guess charms. And so I added like that little tiny rake and the little seed packet and a little water can, and I dyed this fabric myself. It was just some even weave from Hobby Lobby, and I used just DMC threads, I think, and some other choices, none of the called for probably. I did a chain stitch on that corn. I'm not sure you can really tell, it's really tiny, and I really like the way that turned out. I had it up for spring and summer because I never did finish the summer medley, but I have one for all the seasons. So just a cute little thing. And I got this plaque at the Goodwill for $2.99, and then I just chalk painted it. And this piece comes off all together because no, yeah, it does. It comes off all together. It's just magneted on like that. So super fun. I just took the winter medley off and put up the garden one. So there's a previous finish that I really enjoy. Another one was a gift from a friend, Kathy Parker, and it was Welcome Spring. And this one was a joy to stitch. I was sharing with someone, maybe it was Annie from Joyful Stitcher, that I had the cart a little bit off. This sheep grew one extra stitch on his legs because I had him off and I was not going to pull out that whole cart. So he's a little bit long-legged, but you can't really tell. And I think I just used some of my own stash. In fact, I recognize the brown on the robin's back. That's in my spring medley. And then the sheep is ecru, my favorite, one of my favorite dyes. And I did finish this piece last year, but I added another ruffle this year. I was never happy with the spacing on the ruffles, and I'm still not 100% sold, but this tray was just something I had from a thrift store that I chalk painted, and it was sitting in my closet, so I thought I might as well use it. And it has some trim in there, some chenille trim that I'll tell you a little bit more about later. And I think I added some bees, or those may have been already charted. No, those were the charted bees that I keep copying. I've put them on several different pieces now since I first made them back in the spring last year. So this is called Welcome Spring by Brenda Gervais. I don't have the chart anymore. I passed it on to Patchy Pony Stitcher. She won it in a giveaway. So that is Welcome Spring by With Thy Needle and Thread. And I think that is a Monaco that I dyed myself. Yeah, 28 count Monaco that I over dyed myself. really like the results. The sheep stands out really well, I felt like. So there's that. And the third piece I wanted to show is another one of my paper crafts. I actually had my mom bring it last time she was here because I'm using a little bit of beeswax in one of my crafts today. And it reminded me, I'm not sure why this is like this. Oh, it came undone. Anyway, it reminded me of these series of bird pieces that I did for my mom over birthdays and Christmas and things. And I used beeswax. I cannot get this to come back together. There we go. It hangs like this. Those are my girls when they were little, my 18 and 14-year-old with an umbrella. And I just kind of did a photocopy of that and decoupaged it and kind of blurred it out on top of an Italian paper. And it looks like some sewing pattern. This is an example of an art form called Encaustic. And I'm not sure how to spell it. I think it's E-N-C-A-U-S-T-I-C, Encaustic. You take the papers, you collage them on, and then you take beeswax and you melt it and spread it over the top, which it still smells like beeswax. But it just gives it kind of a really muted feeling and a cool texture. And you have to take a little tiny quilting iron and smooth out the wax. Otherwise, it's real chunky and gritty on top. So I don't know if there's a YouTube tutorial on how to do encaustic with beeswax, but I think I read about it in a book. So I have a whole series of these. I have a couple I like a little better, but this is the one my mom found. So, and it's small. And I put a little verse on the back, and I did this back in 2008. So a long time ago. That's how little my girls were. And this was a specialty paper. It came on a big roll, kind of like that wreath I made. I got it in the same store in Ardmore, Oklahoma that's no longer open, but it was from Italy, imported papers. So just love paper, love little collage, almost like a scrapbooking project, but a little bit more timeless, I would say. And that's my favorite color, that blue. So just wanted to share that because I'm using the beeswax from the same kind of process. Not the same process, but from the same pot of beeswax that I used then. I've kept it all these years, and it's one of my finishes. So let me transition into that. This was a Etsy pattern that I purchased called Bunny Wabbit Trio with a W. I'm not mispronouncing that, from Woodland Primitives. And I like to try out these little muslin projects. This is actually a tea towel. I showed it last time without its embroidery and whiskers, and it kind of looked like bread. And it still looks a little bit like bread, but now it has a little bit of a face. So it's a little wonky, and it's not everybody's taste, I understand, but this was the first one that I completed. I had it on Instagram a while ago. It's just kind of freehand embroidery, and I'm not sure if it's twine that I rubbed through the beeswax, because it'll stand up now, was supposed to be inserted into the fabric and through. It was too thick for me to do that, so I just kind of tucked it under the nose. I didn't quite follow the instructions on that, but otherwise I followed the instructions as closely as I could. And I can't really do a tutorial on this kind of craft because it's not my idea, so I will link the pattern from Etsy. I also changed it up a little bit though. This is one that was inspired by Stacy Nash's animal cracker, and I think it's a bunny called Primrose. I kind of and she's not finished. I need to do this face on her, but I kept putting this video off because I had so many little projects to finish. I thought, I'm never going to get this video filmed if I don't just bite the bullet and show you what I have so far. So I really like the way she's turning out though, because she has a little bit of color on her tummy and on her ears and cheeks. So this one is going to be kind of like Primrose with the bigger whiskers. Like you can see, she's taller. So she looks a little bit different, but she's going to be in the trio. And I also made one for my mom. She doesn't like the primitive stuff as much, so she wanted it straight white. So this is what it looks like, and its ears give me a little bit of trouble. But this is what she looks like before you do any of the aging or, distressing. So these three were almost finished. They just need the face on the other two, and I'm really pleased with how they came out. I will be doing a giveaway with those, but like I said, I have 3 more that are still needing to be processed through, so it'll probably be next time before I can do that. And so that was one finish. The other finish I wanted to show you, This was my first punch needle. And I told you last video, if you watched, that I didn't do it correctly. I kind of just got excited and I wasn't really reading the instructions. Let me show you. I ended up using, and it's not completely finished because I'm not 100% sure about this box. It was finished with 6 strands on every part of the pattern. And it's supposed to have some changes, I think. Like some of it was supposed to be 3 strands and some of it was supposed to be blended. The bird wasn't quite as bright, but I still like it. And so I'm just gonna move forward and call it done. I got some great advice from Shanda, a viewer and fellow Flosstuber. I'll link her channel below. So thank you very much, Shanda, for your help on how to separate out the strands. And I did buy, this is a little bit ahead, but I did have my next piece ready to go. Let me see if I can get it out of the bag here. This is by Teresa Kogut. She released it at market. It's called Carrot Row. And it was in Punch Needle Primitive Stitcher magazine last year. So 2019. I got all the threads, the DMC threads here. I'm not going to be able to use the weak Styleworks. That would get quite expensive. Some of these take up to 4 and 6 strands or 6 skeins of DMC. So, you know, that would have been, goodness, probably $30, $40 in weeks threads. So my idea is to try to over dye these. I got another great tip from, I can't remember her screen name. I'll put it at the bottom here. I got another tip on how to over dye flosses just with taupe to make them more primitive. So I'm going to be experimenting with that and starting that. But this was finished, like I said, and intended to be a gift. I'm going to be putting it out in the mail. I don't know when I'll be able to get to the mailbox, so I don't want to run the surprise of who this is going to. But anyway, what I did was paint a Godiva candy box. And like I said, I'm having a little trouble because my chalk paint was bubbling and I didn't have the right color. I wanted it to match the bird a little better and maybe even do some peppermint stripes. I haven't decided on that. I might just leave it red. But I can't get to the craft store right now. And I'll maybe have already put a little segue in there about the times that we're in, just kind of the anxiety and fear that we might be experiencing with the isolation. I encourage you to reach out to friends and to continue to do your crafting and making beautiful things to kind of cope with the stress. But I won't be able to get to the craft store to get my paint that I need, or I'm not going to. I probably could, but I'm going to choose not to. And then I can't get to the post office just yet. So this will sit for a little bit, but I thought it looked pretty cute on this box. It almost fit it just perfectly. I made this trim myself from some yarn that I over dyed. And I'll be sharing more about that in an upcoming video. I hinted at a collab that's coming at the end of the month with 2 other Flosstubers that I super admire. And I'll give you a little hint. They're both involved with the Frugal Yankee group, I guess you could say. So they know how to do things very frugally, as I appreciate very much. So this trim was something, like I said, I probably spent about 10 cents on it when I finished altogether. There's a little bit of drawbacks with doing your own chenille trim, but I'll talk about that in a further video. So that's how I finished it. I just put it on some cardboard. I put it on another piece of foam core that's covered with this dot fabric, and then I put the trim around the edges to kind of disguise the unfinished part of the punch needle. But it was super easy and super fun, and I'm really excited to get my Carrot Row started. But I have to decide when I'm going to go ahead and order the weaver's cloth online, because Joann's has it, but I can't get to Joann's. So got to be creative, and it'll, like I said, I have plenty. I haven't said it, but we all know I have plenty to work on, so that can wait. But this punch needle was a blessing, and I'm so grateful to Nikki for her generous gift of the pattern and the floss and the hoop and needle. So all of that's a good thing, and it's going to have a sweet recipient soon. The other finish I had was unexpected, probably kept me from finishing some things I was supposed to, but sometimes you just get a whim on a freebie chart, or you just feel a seasonal piece is like calling your name, and I went for it. So I ended up stitching this Subrosa pattern. that I think it was Emily of For Love of the Stitches and Ashley who do a lot of these like little freebies from Subrosa. There's the picture. I didn't use any of the called for floss. That purple is from a Nina's thread, and I looked online at the Nina's threads in Hungary and thought, oh, those look really cool. I would like to try those sometimes. I've heard lots of good things about them. But instead I used, oh, and I don't have it here. That's okay. I used this purple that I had dyed myself. My friend Tamara gave me some Artiste threads, which aren't the best threads. They're a little rough. They're not so smooth as DMC, but they were bright blue and white, like variegated, and so I dipped them in purple, and it kind of came up with, I made some fabric that color too from an earlier video you might remember, but it kind of came up with this kind of springy bluey purple variegated color. And I used let's see, my mind is going blank, Victorian Motto sampler threads on the leaves, and then just a DMC light yellow. I wish I'd had a more variegated yellow, but that's what I had. So it turned out really fun. I just stitched it up while I was in the car on some even weave scrap from Hobby Lobby. And like I said, I didn't do any of the called for colors. That's just a little orange that's the same color as her feet. And then probably my favorite part of this finish was the way I ended up joining this together. I'm still learning on sewing. I don't love the way that the points flare out on this. I need to work on making it flatter so it's not so swoopy on the edges. If you have any tips on that, let me know. But I ended up doing this joining stitch, and it was real easy to keep it even at the top. I'm trying to get as close as I can because you're following the holes of the linen. But the bottom, you kind of have to eyeball it, and it almost looks like grass, I thought. It's the same color as the stems that I had stitched with, so it was just embroidery floss. And then I found these buttons, and I'll share them a little bit more in my haul, at an antique store. I got a whole little envelope full of them for 75 cents, and I thought these are worth probably $5 a piece. I'm pretty sure they're either an antique celluloid, which is that old plastic, or a bone. I can't tell. They're really hard, and they have a metal center that's kind of rusted. I just love that. So that sits in my window and just makes me smile. Cute little chick. I was wanting to do some Brenda Gervais with the needle chickens, but these are free, so use what you have, and I have plenty. So that was just a fun one. And then my last finish, my favorite finish, I have been working on this one for so long. I don't know why, excuse me, I had to lean over. I don't know why it's been such a challenge, but this is my spring ABCs. You always think, oh, that's easy, I can whip it out. And I know Niecy Lynn finished hers quickly, but she's more of a monogamous stitcher than I am. I get too distracted, so it takes me forever to finish stuff. But this was my color palette here, just kind of a bunch of springy, gosh, it's a mess. This is not Nicole's needle, or Nicole's floss strands. These are just kind of a wreck, like I've been working with them. But these were just some DMCs. I got my favorite color, kind of the inspiration for the whole piece, was this Teal Frost by Weeks, if you can see that one. It's not super variegated, there it is, but it's just my favorite color, kind of that bluey green. So I did the whole piece in that palette, kind of made it up myself, and I'm probably gonna have to insert a video if I can get it in here. I just finished it. It's like hot off the press. So here's all the different details, and my bow might be just a little bit low. You can see the top has that variegated silk. Boy, this is a long finish. I had trouble with this in autumn too. And like I said, I'll try to insert a video and a picture, but I really love those little daisies by the rabbits. I almost forgot their cottontails. I had this put on the board ready to lace it or put it down, and I realized they had no tails, so I had to take it off and stitch on their tails real fast. And it kind of has some variegation in the petals on the flowers there, and there's the house in Teal Frost and the robin. Just a super cute design. This is my second fully finished one, and I already had done the autumn. Like I said, I wish you could see that bow better. I thought that turned out really pretty. These are just from Dollar Tree and from Walmart. So and some burlap. So that turns out really pretty. I'll have some more video of that, but super glad to have that done. I dyed that Ada myself. It's a 16 count, so it fits perfectly on this Walmart stand. And I haven't seen this yet. It was red. It has a bird at the top, if you can see that. And I chalk painted it for my entryway. I love red, but I wanted it to go in my front room, and I have more pastel colors up there. It's kind of my garden room. So I thought it fit really well, and it turned out super pretty. So there's my finish that I worked on most of the week. Why I don't have a lot of whips, because I finished them. So I'm glad to share that, and let me get my whips, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back with my couple of whips, but I forgot to show another finish. I've been kind of cooped up, as we all have, so I was working on some DIY around the house. I have a couple of other projects that aren't finished yet that I wanted to share, but I'm going to make another video in another week or so, so those will be back. But I wanted to share this real quickly. This is just a wall sconce. I have two of these, but I couldn't hold them both. They're kind of heavy, that I made kind of inspired by Deb from Country Stitchers. She showed in her Christmas tour a project made similarly to this with amber glass and maybe some rougher wood. I can't remember what her wood was like, but I found this wood at just at Home Depot. I stained it myself. This is my Java stain that I've used all through my house, my kitchen, my coat rack, and I'll insert a little video probably at the end of how this looks on either side of my ceiling tile. When I did my Christmas home tour, I looked at a few places in the house and thought, that doesn't look quite right. You can kind of see things differently when they're videoed or on a picture. So I ended up trying to make that more symmetrical at the foot of the stairs, and I needed something that was affordable and something that I could do quickly. So these jars are from Walmart. They're kind of a aqua blue, my favorite color, and they have just some jute wrapped around, some of that same Walmart pick. I think those are $1 and $2 picks, so altogether between the two of them, I just shared 2 picks. It was $3. And then E6000. I went back and forth. You can kind of see that, yeah, you can see the glue there at the back. I went back and forth between trying to get, in fact, I bought some metal braces. I know Deb's were made that way, but I couldn't figure out how to attach it to the wood and then have it tight enough on the jar. I'm sure I just didn't know what I was doing. Her husband probably made it or something, but I saw tutorials on YouTube and they just used E6000. So I put a ton of E6000 down. I laid this out with some heavy things on top of it and let it sit for a week because we left for spring break. So when I came back, I had some masking tape. I took that off and it is solid. I don't have any concerns about it coming off. It really does hold anything. And of course, I'm not going to put, like a heavy water or something in here to hold these vases. They're not going to be for anything but artificial picks, but I just thought it was really pretty and simple. So I'll, like I said, insert a video of the two of these together, and it's a fun craft to try. You could probably just use some scrap wood that you have around the house. I didn't end up doing any poly on it. This was just the stain, and then they cut it for you at the hardware store. If things get back to normal, we could probably do that later. So anyway, I thought I'd share that because I was really happy with how that turned out. And my husband said, that's one of the neatest things you've ever made. So, it's kind of a masculine feel with a wood. So that was that. The other thing I wanted to share was a project I started working on. I've said I was going to do it for many times, but I've been kind of distracted. This Stacy Nash pig pinkeep. I wanted to start when I finished the ABCs and when I finished my Jenny Bird. And so I'd kind of been putting it off, but part of the reason is because this is a 40 count fabric. It's murky, and I don't know if you can see how tiny those stitches are. That's maybe 100 stitches, but they're just so teeny tiny. And this fabric is a little tricky because I've heard other people say about Picture This Plus, I think this is even tighter than 40. It is like my other 40 that I'm doing, my All Creatures Great and Small, it hasn't been dyed at all. It's just the raw mallow linen, and the holes are much easier to see. These are very tight, and then there's a few of them. The reason this is torn out, I had to frog half of that flower at the base there, is because one of the strands of linen was just a teeny tiny sliver. I mean, it was almost like a hair. It was so thin. And so as I was stitching, everything got shifted over 1/2 of a stitch. And I thought, how did that happen? It's not lining up. And I realized I had missed that teeny tiny sliver in there. So I'm having to go really slowly and really concentrate. And so I've even debated about trying another count of murky, but I already spent like $6 on this piece, and I was like, I don't want to have to order some more. So I will press on and see how it goes. Hopefully I'll have better success in the future once I get kind of, it's almost like you kind of get a rhythm, like, okay, now I see it. But when you first sit down, it's like, these are impossibly small stitches. But I love the colors. The Rose Garden is that pink, and it looks really pink. When I first started stitching, it was like kind of rosy, but when you get it all on there, I think I'm gonna like it better. I don't have the second color pink picked out yet because I didn't have it in gas, and I wanted to just make it up as I go. So I have all the others mostly called for, a few my own, choices. The greenery, Stacy Nash loves to do this. The greenery on the side is apple cider, which I was sort of poo-pooing at first because I was like, I don't like apple cider leaves, they're gross. But as I was doing the green, you can see the contrast, it wasn't showing up very well, and that apple cider does. So I was like, okay, I need to concede to the designer, she knows what she's doing. So I started doing my leaves in cider, and I don't think I'm going to rip out the rest of that. It's just going to be kind of wabi-sabi. It'll go from green to brown. It's natural, it's a leaf, so I'm not mad at it. But I was just a little bit discouraged. As much as I love the, oh, that's upside down. As much as I love the colors, the stitches are so tiny. So we'll be back to that though. It is one that I want to be working on in April especially. And then the only other whip I have, because I finished my spring ABCs and my punch needle, was my ornament from Prairie Schooler. It's the rooster up top, and the colors on this are a little tricky. You can tell in the photo the brown and tan. I don't really care for that. It's much more kind of dated looking to me. So I'm going back to my palette with the Manor Red and the darker colors. Here's my palette, 3371 Manor Red and that 3365. So it kind of looks like a skunk tail right now. I'm not super happy with it, but I'm pretty sure as I press on, and when you see the Manor Red for the top of the rooster, those are going to be pretty colors. It's going to turn out nice. It's just, you have to keep going past that moment of, I don't like this too. It's going to be okay. Just keep going. Sometimes you have to punt, but this time I'm going to continue. So I just haven't had as much time to work on that, but that's not a very hard stitch. I should be able to get that done by the end of March and be on track to have my 3rd out of the 9 finished. So that's all I've been working on as far as whips go. I haven't worked on my Stacy Nash piece for Miss Baxter very much. I finished the top of the border and I finished about 1/3 of the cabin, but it wasn't really that much progress to show you. So I hope to have a lot done this week in that. And then also on my Brenda Gervais piece. So not a lot of whips right now, but I do have quite a bit of haul to share. So if you're not into haul, let me go ahead and announce the giveaway winner. And then if you don't want to see the haul, you can say goodbye till next time. But I did want to come back and share. I had several people that would like to stitch Jenny by Stacy Nash Primitives, the Animal Cracker series. I don't have her with me today, but I showed her last time, and she is just adorable. I made some dyed corduroy and drop cloth as a couple of options for backing. I'm going to include that in the giveaway. And I had about 35 people that were interested in stitching, 31 actually, in stitching Jenny. So I will insert the name because I forgot to do the random number generator. I'll insert the name of the winner here. And if you will, I'm going to leave my email below. If you will email me, I'll comment on your comment after I draw it. And then if you will email me your mailing address, I have that other piece to get out in the mail. So it depends on when things calm down. It might be a couple weeks, but I did want to go ahead and announce that so you could know it was coming and feel excited to stitch it. So that is, like I said, Jenny from Stacy Nash, and I have the hen to do next, but that's going to be a little bit of time. So that was the giveaway. The next thing I wanted to share was my haul. I ended up having 2 different trips for market. I was going to be so good and just get the 2 patterns, but then I ended up in Tulsa near the Silver Needle and had some spare time. So I went ahead and got a second little order, and I got to go in the back with all the stuff that had just come in and wasn't even put up yet. So it was a lot of fun. But I pre-ordered with my friend Christine from Hollis Hands Creates the Consider the Lilies sampler. I'd held off on doing the eyes on the sparrow because I felt like it was a little similar. It's not really, but it has a similar theme to the All Creatures Great and Small by Barbara Anna, which I'm working on. It has, you know, the bull and all the different animals, and so I felt like I didn't really need 2 pieces that were like that. But this one really spoke to me. I love the flowers and the colors, and I've always loved that verse, consider the lilies of the field, they neither toil nor sow or nor spin. So I always have loved that sentiment. And I love his eyes on the sparrow too. I may end up doing that one eventually because these would be so cool as companions. I'm not going to do it on 28 count. I don't really care for the coverage as well, especially on sparrow. I don't know. This one seems brighter. Another reason I didn't care for sparrow at first was the colors were so muted when you did 1 strand over 2 on 28. Still very pretty. No shade on that, but I like it better on a higher count. I thought about 36 with 2 strands like I'm doing Hawk Hollow, but that is such a floss eater. I think you would spend probably $100 in floss. So I'm going to do it on 40 count, 1 over 2. And I've been talking with my friend Kristen and a few others about what kind of linen. I'll probably end up just dip dyeing something myself. Probably just get a white half, fat half, and dip it myself, and then do some combination of Weeks Dye Works, and it might be for my birthday. I'm thinking this will be a birthday start, but we'll see. So that was really fun. Oh, I forgot one piece, or I'm doing this out of order. I didn't forget, but I'm doing this out of order. I had some participation in the Common Threaded Stitcher hashtag on Instagram. If you haven't been following that, it's lots of fun. And I haven't been posting really regularly. Things have just been, my routine is all out of whack, and I've got my little kids home, and so it's just been weird. But I did participate a few days, and one of the things I put on there was my unicorn chart. And I was just so humbled by everyone's kindness. I didn't have one offer of sending Sally Spencer. I had 5. I just could not believe how sweet people were. And I won't mention who sent this because she didn't say it in public. She private messaged me, but thank you so much. If you're watching, you know who you are. It came at such a good time. It was the first day that we were doing homeschool, the first day kind of the quarantine where we're at the house, and my 6-year-old spilled water all over my laptop and it wouldn't come back on. And I was just sick at my stomach. And then we had another accident, just a lot of gross stuff going on. But the computer had just really, I had cried a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I put it in a bag of rice. It came back on. Everything is fine. I'm so grateful. But it came right after I was crying about that. And I was like, Lord, you don't have to send me prizes every time I cry, I promise. But this was just such a sweet smile from a friend and from God that He cares. He's watching out for us. So thank you so much. I'm intending to stitch this sooner rather than later since it is a gift, and I'd like to return it so it can be passed on to another stitcher. But I have to get to Hobby Lobby for my 32 count linen. So when I can get to Hobby Lobby, I will be starting this. It doesn't have a ton of flosses. I think there's only 5 or 6. So I'll probably order those from Farmer's Attic. I actually have a few of them already. And then I'm going to get started ASAP. So can't wait. I'm so excited about that. I never thought I would get that, or I was just thinking, well, maybe someday. But just to have it on an off chance mention and have 5 offers. Wow, y'all are just really so sweet. The other things that I bought myself, this one was that surprise that I mentioned, the stables at Hollyberry Farm. I just love that barn and the horses. I have a history with that. So I definitely will be stitching this. I looked at all the colors at Silver Needle when I was there. I love to do that after my online experiences. I felt it necessary. And I'm going to be changing them a little bit. You can't really tell, but the border on this is a Merlot and a Cinnabar, which is almost like a burgundy and a pink. And I just really don't care for pinks as much. It's a light pink and I do like it. I may end up using it, but as of now, I'm thinking I'll do more of a country redwood and a rosewood from Gast. And then the weeks that's charted is really bright, which, you know, if I do this on 40 count and I use 1 strand, it may not be as bright, but it was almost like that avocado that I was showing you last video where I was just like, oh, that's too neon, too bright. So the Weeks Dye Works moss, I think I'm going to change to the Gentle Arts moss, which is much more muted. And I don't think I'll stitch that whole lawn. When you look at it like this, it almost looks like a tree house, like it's sitting on top. And I know it's primitive, it's supposed to be you know, rough, but I don't think I'm going to stitch that lawn. At first I liked it, but now I'm like, no, I'm going to leave that path off and do the flowers and the fence and just have a row of grass underneath. It'll also be a lot less stitching, so I might do another flower. I don't know, I'll probably just leave it, but I'm not going to do that lawn. So I may have this as a first of summer start. I'm not sure when I'll start it, or it may be even next year, because I have a year of Stacy Nash and I'm doing the smaller pieces like the Summer Tribute and the Miss Baxter. So this may be next year when I do all the Hollyberry Farms and just work on them seasonally, kind of like another friend that I watch does. So anyway, that was Hollyberry Farm Stables. And then I had to get this one when I saw it. It just blew me away, from Lindy Stitches. Stephanie Webb did a beautiful job on this. Mary Needleworker. I always had that nursery rhyme. We would quote that, Mary quite contrary. And it's very gardeny and it has just so many elements that I love. The color scheme. I've already picked up some of the DMCs. That's the skirt. I'm going to try to over dye this DMC to give it a little more texture, because we're talking with the number of skeins you needed for the skirt. I think it was 5. Yeah, that would have been, you know, like $12.50 for that, and this was $1.20. So is that right? I got it for 34 cents, so $3.69. Yeah, about $1.50. So way cheaper. And then I'm going to change a few of the colors. Stephanie's color palette is a little more bright than mine. I like things to be dulled down just a little bit. So I'll be picking my own colors for the greens and the thread on the spools there. But I think this would be a really pretty companion piece to my Needles and Thread by Brenda Gervais. She has a big old hoop skirt. I'm going to be working on her later in the spring. And so these two I think will make nice companions. Just the needle workers. And I think I'll put them in my craft space. So love this. I wanted to start it at Stitch Texas as a memory for my retreat, but it's been delayed. So I might save it till we get to meet, until we get to have our Stitch Texas. I had to cancel my hotel room and I was just really sad and bummed. I'm gonna not get to hang out with Becky like I hoped, and everybody else, but it'll happen. It's hard to wait, but I can do it. That's what I always tell my kids. That's kind of our mantra. It's hard to wait, but I can do it. Oh, and the other thing on this I wanted to show, I picked up for the scissors, I don't know if you can tell, they have kind of a variegated gray. I picked up this Light Effects. It was $1.20 with my discount. And it's supposed to be called Antique Pewter. It doesn't look super antique-y. It kind of does here, but in person it just looks kind of like tinfoil. But I did some test stitches with it. Everybody says it's a nightmare to work with. and it's not easy. But for such a small piece of the picture, just that little bit of scissor, I think I might try it. I thought it was kind of groovy. It's very sparkly. I'm not really capturing that very well, but it started to fray pretty quick. I bet you could only do about 10 stitches and then re-tie it and thread your needle again. And it's really hard to thread your needle. I could only get one strand to go through my needle because it frays out like, and you're trying to stick it through the eye and it is a mess. But it's kind of fun. So I think I'm going to use that for the scissors. Famous last words, we'll see. But it's that Light Effects E415. I think it's Light Effects. It's some kind of metallic E415. So trying that out. And then the last piece I got, no, the last two pieces I got. This was my silver needle part, and I just got two things there, but one of them was kind of expensive. This was not. This was just $4. This is the Hands-On Design Market exclusive, part of why I picked it up. Humble Honey. I thought that my son's being silly. I thought it was so cute. And she also did a freebie this year that she does for her husband and her for their anniversary, and it's a bee theme. So I thought I could print that one out too and have two Hands-On Design bee pieces. So I have a little bee thing going on. I think a lot of people do, but I thought that was so pretty, and it has that aqua color that I love. So there's that one. I've seen this on Etsy. I know lots of stores have it, so it's only $4 at most places. I would encourage you to pick it up because it's an exclusive. The other thing that I decided to pick up because of the exclusivity of Blackbird Designs was the Sewing Club. And I went back and forth because I haven't bought any other Blackbird books other than the Christmas one. I got that one for my Christmas present. And I feel a little bit guilty spending $30, but this has, I don't know why it says 16 projects. It has 15 projects. I have it all broken down on my Instagram, and I might insert, excuse me, hiccups. I might insert a printout of that. Yeah, it's not this. Because one of the projects they mention is really just instructions on how to finish a drum. So you get 15 projects, and they are mostly drums. There's like 5 drums. There's a housewife, there's lots of needle keeps, there's some box tops. This one right here is actually finished on a box, and I really like that one. The saying is, she works with willing hands in delight. So I'll probably do that one eventually. And then there's one, quote unquote sampler on the back, and it's not very big. It's something about birds. But I thought what I'd do, because I haven't had a lot of luck in really seeing what's in this book. If you look on like the 1, 2, 3 stitch and some of those pages, they don't have a lot of pictures of the inside of it. So I'll put that in the title of the video, but I think I'm going to insert a slideshow of the projects, of the 15 projects, so that you can see what they are. And on Instagram I also listed all the stitch counts, because a lot of the stitch counts are like 90 by 60 or 105 by 80. They're not huge projects. So that was another draw of this. I'll be using these next year as my, instead of Christmas ornaments, I'm going to do drums. So lots of fun and super pretty. And I think that was all of my market haul. Yes, that was it. But I did want to show you a couple things I thrifted, or 1 or 2. Yeah, 2. This scarf came from Antique Mall that's going out of business. It was $3 originally. I don't know if you can see that, but I gave $1.50 for it because it was, like I said, clearance out, and it's in terrible shape. It's got lots of stains and like gross spots on it. But if you look at this embroidery, it is hand done. It's not machine done. You can see these stitches on the back. Somebody carried a lot of their stitches. But this is like a bullion stitch, which is really tricky, I think. And then just satin stitch and some other stem stitch and lazy daisies. So lots of fun. And I'll probably make this into some kind of pillow. I may even over dye it because the colors This lighting has changed as I'm sitting here. Let me see if that helps. The colors, yeah, that's better, are really bright. So I thought about, and some of them are coming undone, like they're falling apart. So I thought about trying to trim it a little bit and putting it in some kind of over dye and making it into a little pillow. So just to save the stitches for $1. And the main reason I got it, this is, I believe, handmade lace. Look how pretty, and it goes all the way around, and it's, you know, some of it's deteriorated beyond what you could use, but I will find a use for all of it. So it's two-sided. It was supposed to be a table runner, but it's in really bad shape. So, and I could use this as a table runner and put these pieces on another piece of fabric. I don't know, but I'm definitely going to separate the lace because it's so cool, and it's in really bad shape. So anyway, that was a save the stitches. And I also had those buttons I wanted to show you. I might have to probably video this from below or from above, because I bought this little spinner thing at an antique mall. It came from Home Goods, though. It's not really antique, but I thought it was really cool for putting, like, I have a bunch of little bells for Christmas, and these are the antique buttons that I found, the whole package of them, that are made out of either celluloid or bone, I'm not sure which. And then I got this random bag down here that's just full of ivory buttons. So that's probably good enough to see. I was just really happy. And I have a whole bunch of mother of pearl ones up here that I got from China on eBay. So I was just really happy to have this container ready to store all the embellishments and things that I like to use for making berries and little pin keeps. So that was a fun find. You could still find something like that at Home Goods. And I think that's it for haul. It is. It's all for haul. I would encourage you to check the prayer board. There were a couple of y'all that had said that you weren't able to post on the community tab because you're on your phone, but I was able to. I don't know if it's because I have an iPhone, but if you go to the header page of my videos, you can click the community tab and still type in a prayer need. I wanted to share a couple that were publicly shared in the comments of the last video, but not put on the community board. I need to add those myself. For Betty Ullin, who was going through some tests and waiting for results, feeling very anxious, and I don't know how that was delayed with all that's been going on, or if those results have been in yet, but we need to pray for her. And also for Laura, Lori, who was going through some adoption issues with a granddaughter. So just pray for those two ladies, Betty and Lori, and also for all of our community and neighbors, that we would stay safe. I know we had 10 new cases in Tarrant County today, and one is in the small town where my church is. So I'm not sure who that is yet, but you know, we all just feel really anxious, and I think it's kind of bleeding off onto my kids a little. They're having trouble sleeping. So let's just be in prayer for one another and continuing to find solace in stitching. And as peaceful and stress relieving as stitching is, we have to remember the real healer and the real mender of our soul is Jesus. So keep that in mind as you kind of try to find a new balance for your day. And I'm definitely trying to find that. It's just everything feels surreal. When I went to the grocery store at Target yesterday, it was so quiet in there. It felt sort of scary. I kind of felt like I was in a movie or in some kind of surreal. I know some places are chaotic and, you know, crazy, but this was just too quiet. It felt like I was kind of in an out-of-body experience. Like, is this really happening? So I know a lot of y'all have had those same experiences, and we're just having to kind of redefine ourselves. So I'll be praying for you, and I appreciate y'all so much, your friendship, and I hope that you can find some just distraction and time to think about stitching and talk about fun projects instead of some of our troubles. That was my hope with this video. So as I always say at the end, in Psalm 90 verse 17, it says, "May the favor of the Lord our God be upon us and establish the work of our hands." I'll see you soon.